we've had a real.
Yeah, volleyball started out the season very, very well. Anyone else?
Had a good start to the year, considering all the challenges that we've been dealing with. We've done very well, and attendance is relatively good. The few COVID situations that we've had, knock on wood, we haven't had a lot of people impacted by that, and so we're just happy that every day that we have with our students is a gift. So we're taking advantage of it.
Community-wise, I'd like to recognize Missouri Pizza and who teamed with them. I can't remember on Patriots Day. They were very good. They were bringing pizza to all the fire station, the policemen, brought it to the school, all the first responders. So again, our community is wonderful, I think, on supporting people. Okay. We will move along. Statements from patrons. Mr. Rapp, do we have any?
None.
All right. Next thing up is presentations. And I believe we have Eric Sherrill here for Branco. You step to the podium and let us know what's going on.
Take this off so you guys can hear me. I think everything's coming along pretty good. Early childhood's about finished. There's a few little punch items we've been working with Wes and Merlin on. Coordinate that around the school schedule. Been trying to knock a few things out Friday afternoons and things like that. Just whenever we get the opportunity, we have waiting on stuff. Seems like everybody's excuse right now is they're waiting on something because of COVID or whatever. But as those things come in, we're trying to coordinate with them, get in there and get that done. Still moving along at the high school. I think for the most part, Wes and I were just talking about trying to do some kind of a punch walkthrough on the part of the school they're utilizing, so the art room, the choir room, the locker rooms, the bathroom up by the library, and if there's any issues there, go ahead and get those resolved, so makes our punch list smaller at the end of the project. They're starting to lay the gym floor. They got the subfloor down, and not sure what happened last night. Something happened with the HVAC for some reason. The humidity level spiked real high last night, so they're working with the HVAC guys and the plumber to try to get that addressed so we can lay the actual hardwood. It's not a big deal for the subfloor, but humidity level has to be lower to lay the hardwood, so we'll get that figured out. I think worst case scenario, we're looking at probably mid next month. The gym there should be completely finished, and I think that's really about the only thing in the existing facility to finish up. There is some acoustical panels that have a lead time that they're having some difficulties getting from the supplier that go in those practice rooms for the choir room. As far as the other part of the school and the auditorium over there, supposed to set the HVAC units next week. That's one of our big holdups. We had to get the roof done to set the HVAC units so we can get some climate control going on there, so we can lay tile and put in ceiling tile and some things like that. But so set those next week. I don't see any issues with us having all the classrooms over there done mid to late November at the very latest. Would like to have the auditorium done into November, but there may be a few items. I think mid-December would probably be our worst case scenario. I think things are moving along pretty good. We have had some slowdowns. One of the big slowdowns we had was the elevator pit. They dug out the elevator pit and then backfilled it, and then we went to dig the elevator pit to actually put in the elevator pit, and they found some foundation in there, then had to have it evaluated. So it's kind of, everything just takes time, and one person has to look at it and somebody else has to look at it, and you're waiting on answers from different people. So that was a little bit of an issue, and we ended up having to do a lot of furring out of the walls in the existing school because the plaster was all cracked and broken, and just takes time. Had to order materials, and you have to get guys to do it. And I'm going to tell you guys, it's not just here, it's everywhere. Everybody's having problems getting people to work and getting people to show up, and they'll have a crew that's coming, and one guy's sick, so then the crew can't show up for a couple weeks, and we're trying. I think things are moving along fine, and we're doing the best we can. So, do I have any questions?
The only thing I have, Eric, is like all of the plans and everything show they should be, it looks like done before we would start the next year on what we've seen here for dates and everything. You think we're still online for that? Or
Before we start the next what?
next semester, basically?
That's what I was talking to Merlin earlier. I said, I think by, Christmas we'll have like our job trailer and everything should be out of there. So I said, I think, mid-December, I think that's a pretty achievable time to have kind of everything done, ready to go. And there may be a few little items to wrap up, but we should be looking pretty good.
Awesome. Thank you.
So we're shooting for I'll tell you the classrooms. I'm sure Merlin and Wes have been up there and looked. I mean, the classrooms, they're painted, they got ceiling grid, everything in. We're just waiting to get to the HVAC units set and hooked up, which we're waiting on them to run permanent power for those as well. They're having to run through there, and they're going to have to bore underneath the other transformer. And yes, exactly. So that all has to be up and running before they can start putting the tile and the ceiling tile and stuff like, kind of doing the final finishes up there. But I think everything's coming together pretty good. They're supposed to finish installing the big electric line to run to the transformer next week. They've got it partially dug. Like I said, it's just kind of risky boring underneath that existing transformer, and so they're going to have to shut things down. So we got to find the right opportunity to do that. So the classrooms up there, so they're looking good, but they're not going to be able to do anything until they get the HVAC units ran, as far as to utilize them. Yeah, they cleaned out everything up front yesterday, so they've cleaned up a bunch of that stuff, but they should be starting to dig and put in some of that, whatever that fancy system they designed was. I think that's going to be Wes's deal. He said he's going to take care of that later. They came up with the proposal, and it was kind of extravagant and expensive, and I think that it was decided they're going to handle that later in a different fashion. Because I think the design that Dake Wells kind of came up with is a little bit elaborate, and I said it was pretty costly. So I think there was some discussion. I think they decided they're going to kind of look at that later.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you guys. So if you guys ever have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. And I appreciate your guys' patience and working with us. And I know there's been some struggles, but we're trying, I promise. Yeah, they've been working on installing the windows on the front. I don't know if you've seen that or not, but they got a lot of the frames in and some of the glasses coming in, and so it's all coming together. And so, like you said, it doesn't really look like it from the outside. It looks like it's not changing, but if you're inside, you can tell there's a lot of changes going on. Things are happening. Well, thank you guys.
Thank you very much. Okay. Next item is for Mr. Webster. Title and special education programs.
So as you guys can see, hold on a second, I'm trying to get there. With the title and SPED, this is required. that we have one in place. We have a couple options. We can design our own. We can use the DESI model. In the past, we've used the DESI model, and looking over things, we are going to continue to use the DESI model. So you can see it there. Are there any questions on the compliance?
I think it looks good.
The other attachment that's listed there is just our staff that are involved with special education, so just for your viewing, so you can see who they are.
Any question about staff assignments? Okay. I guess that was pretty simple. Okay, we'll move along. The CSIP, we have preliminary report for the CSIP, a strategic action plan been working on, so Dr. Johnson.
Yes, so we finished up our CSIP work with a smaller group, about 15 people from the original March plan. And so we finished it up this summer, and ever since those 2 days, we've been working on finalizing our goals, our action steps, and it's not a finished product, but it's really, really close. We've had different people assigned to different goals and writing the action steps, and then we've had accountability partners working with each other, and we feel that we have a very good rough draft that's preliminary. Now I've been looking through it. There's little things, grammatical things, and maybe we need to make a few additions or deletions, some changes moving forward. But this is the preliminary CSIP, and there's a lot of great goals within. If we can talk about it, if you have any questions. But right now, this is for you now, for the board members to be able to look over it. You have a month. And what I'd like to do is, if we could clean that up, anything that you see that we want to do a little bit different, this is your time to give me feedback. And then we can have the clean version at the October board meeting for it to be officially approved. And then at that point, once it's approved, then we are going to start communicating what our plans are to our patrons, to our parents, to our staff, to our students. So, I'm very excited about it because it's going to give me, as a superintendent, it's going to give all of our administration and teachers, people that want to have direction. We're going to have a plan, and we're going to know where we're going. And we're going to, if where we're going isn't the way we want to go, every spring we're going to revisit, and then we'll make the necessary updates. We might achieve some of the goals quickly, and we might decide, hey, we've done that, let's find something else. So pretty excited about it, very excited about it, and just looking forward to your input in the next month. I would like you to focus on, if you do click on that plan, one thing later on tonight in action steps, in our action items, is I would like to revisit the vision, mission, and beliefs. We feel like we're done with that, and we'd like to go ahead and announce officially these are our updated statements.
Merlin, can I ask you just one quick question about this? So I know right now you're working with a consultant to finalize this, but that will only be done every 5 years. So once it's done, they won't come back till 2025?
I can't hear you very well.
Well, so what she asked is, are we gonna have a consultant annually, or is it just gonna be through 2020, or will this?
No.
The question, but. the
Now,
other
he
thing-
would, sorry, Shalene, I couldn't hear you, but he will, if we would like him to come back, if we don't feel good about how we're doing it as a district, he's willing to come back. But really, once we get this created, I don't believe it's going to be necessary for an outside consultant to come get us
Well,
through it, so.
The other thing on that was the main reason for a consultant this time was we really didn't have anyone in the district that had gone through one, right?
Correct, and so now that we've gone through it as a group and we have ownership in it, we built this thing, and we have 15, 20 people who have been very involved in our district, and so the odds of all 15 or 20 people not being here 5 years from now is very slim. So we're going to be able to continue the work. It's going to be at a high level. I feel like the board's going to be involved because we want what we're doing. Everything that we do, we're going to ask ourselves: Are we meeting our mission and vision statements? Are we doing everything within our beliefs as a district? Any new initiatives that we should come up with, we're going to ask the questions, and we're going to, and within this CSIP plan is, we're going to have a forum for anyone developing anything new for our district. Is, are we empowering students through caring relationships, through academic excellence, through community partnerships? Do we really believe that this is going to help everyone feel valued and that they can learn? So those are our beliefs, those are our missions, that's our mission, that's our vision. We have to ask ourselves those questions all the time, and then ad nauseum, we discuss the mission and the vision, almost at a point where people get tired of hearing it. But our job is to always bring it up and always talk about it, because that's what we got to keep the focus on. What's most important is to provide the best opportunities for our kids. So it's I think we have great ownership right now, and you can ask any of our administrators, any of our teachers who have been involved. They're pretty excited. I think people that are involved are very, very excited about it right now. Now we just got to communicate. The hard part is communicating it to everybody, including the community, the parents, and then to live it. We got to actually live it. Don't preach it. You got to actually live it. So the hard part hasn't even started yet. Any other questions?
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Johnson. Moving along, we have a consent agenda. I'd like a motion to approve that consent agenda.
Make the motion.
Got a motion and a second. Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Some discussion topics, extracurricular activities. Again, Dr. Johnson, you want to give an update? Misha's relaxed some of their requirements.
Yes, and this is something that they did back in early August, I believe, that Misha has definitely taken a step back on their original guidelines on extracurricular activities and attendance at school. And I just wanted to have a discussion to make sure that we are on the same, that we're all looking at same perspective and same thoughts. Right now, I am not suggesting or recommending that we make any changes, but there is a movement across the state where school districts are shifting their thought process slightly. I would say districts in our boat are not. But the problem that we have is our procedures that we follow. But it says that we follow what Misha says. Misha now says that students can participate in extracurricular activities even when there is 100% off-site virtual school if school is closed.
The bottom line is, we have to follow Misha. We can't be less restrictive than
We can't be
them.
less restrictive, but
We can be more
restrictive.
restrictive, obviously.
I just wanted to give the board an opportunity to ask any questions about Misha guidelines and St. James and R1 and our stance moving forward.
So just to be clear, we're talking about if we would go 100% virtual, is that correct?
Correct.
And you're asking us to talk about that now, or you're asking us to start thinking about it, should we go 100% virtual?
I wanted to have this discussion at a board meeting so that my recommendation as the superintendent of schools, this is not a policy, is that we maintain that if we have to close school for safety issues because of COVID, that we would feel that it's probably not important to continue playing sports. Unless there's unique circumstances, I think we got to consider there could be unique circumstances out there.
I don't,
If there is a complete closure, though, I think those circumstances are far and few between.
I mean, do we as a board want to say if the high school goes virtual, that'd be level 3, building shutdown, we shut down all high school activities? If a district goes completely, do we want to shut down all district? Do we want to make that commitment directly, or do we want to look at the situation?
the only thing that I struggle with here is the Department of Health's trace contacting and how quickly you can end up shutting down a small school like ours through trace contacting, not necessarily positive cases, but just trace contacting. So I have a hard time just cutting it off completely and not going off of special circumstances. That's a very well put statement. Because I mean, you're talking about you could have 2 to 3 positive cases that could potentially put out, 6 staff members and up to 50 to 60 kids from what I'm reading, and that could be inaccurate, but what I'm reading, you're talking about a whole class at that point possibly, plus teachers, just because of trace contacting, not positive cases. And that's where I struggle with this whole shutdown and taking extracurriculars, not just sports. I mean, and that's the other thing. We're not just talking about sports. We're talking about FBLA. We're talking about things that these kids are doing after school. That's where I struggle to just cut it off completely.
I hear what you're saying, John, but so unique circumstances, I mean, does that mean every single time we're gonna have to bring this to a board decision on one particular group versus the whole school? I mean, that could be.
And I'm not arguing that, but
Yeah.
but that's what I'm saying. I have a hard time just saying if we go 100% virtual, we're not allowing sports. Like, I have a hard time voting for that or recommending that even. Like, I'm in the middle here. If we go 100% virtual, at that point the school has said, hey, we don't feel it's safe to go to school. Are sports safe? Probably not, but you have limited your contact there. It's a tough line. It's a very difficult decision, and that's to make that decision before it happens is very dramatic in my opinion.
As we stand right now, if we should, what has been communicated to parents and students and athletes, if we should cancel school for all due to COVID, then we are not playing sports. Or anything related to MSHSAA. That's as it stands now.
Which I totally agree with. I mean, if we can't have our kids have their butts in the seats, I mean, why would they be playing sports where there's more of an interaction? I totally agree with that, so.
And the only reason that I put this on the agenda is I just wanted to have that, we wanted to have this discussion at a board meeting so that there's no vote to be had.
Sure.
But I wanted to seek direction if there's any consensus of something different.
Okay, so I guess a question I have, I mean, we know we're talking about sports and activities, MSHSAA-related stuff. I mean, is like DECA and FFA, is that MSHSAA, that's not really MSHSAA sanctioned. So we're telling our kids they can't play sports. Are we shutting down non-MSHSAA activities also?
Anything that requires gatherings, if we have a shutdown.
Anything school-sponsored?
Yes, so
Okay.
we're not doing any of those things. Now, right now, I mean, we're at a good place. Our positivity rates with COVID, knock on wood, has been very good, and we've been fortunate. And I think at this point, we could even have a quarantine circle if someone should test positive. And really, the big one is if we get a student positive test, and we have that circle that is found to need to be quarantined, according to the department, based on their investigation. I think we could, based on what I'm seeing in other districts who have already done this, they're not shutting school down. So we're going to work very hard to quarantine and be able to stay open. But once you get that second series right at the same time, and maybe then you get hit by a third series, then you have to make the decision. It's time to shut school down for 2 weeks. No sports for 2 weeks. No gatherings of FFA and DECA. They're shut down. When we come back, everything's back. And that's what other schools are doing right now. And I know that, Carl, you sent me a school up north that
It was up in Moberly, and they're a little bit bigger than us, but it shows you how quickly, I mean, they didn't have much of anything, and it blossomed within a week and a half, and they went all virtual as of Monday, finished Monday. They won't be back until the 28th of September. They shut everything down, because all of a sudden, they had like 230 some staff and students that were quarantined for some reason, whether they were not positive or not, but that whole community, just all of a sudden, it blossomed.
So is there anything, I mean, what can we do from what you're saying, John?
I struggle for two reasons. One is, it's a rights thing at that point. You're talking about people making their own decisions to do extracurriculars, but at the same time, it is school sponsored. So I understand the idea that, hey, that decision needs to come from the school. And if you allow extracurricular activities, you're very much opening the door to prolonging the shutdown of school, which is not what we want. We want to get the kids back into the school, not necessarily play sports. 110% agree with that. It's just I don't know if it's a mental block. I don't know what it is. I just struggle to take that away from the kids. And that's the hard part. But it's understood as well. I agree with the idea at this point. I get it, and it makes sense.
And our goal, the day we shut school down because of COVID, our goal is to get it taken care of and open up as soon as possible based on our health department's recommendations. So,
have we had any discussions with our conference should something like this happen, or with opponents of our sports, or with our debate or anything, if we would have a shutdown, if we can reschedule games, or how would that work? Okay. Volleyball, same way. You can't just shove an extra volleyball game in the next week or something like that.
And yeah. I believe Rolla had to pick up a game this week as well, because I think their Parkview was out.
Rollo was disappointed they didn't get the Webb City game. Joke, as a joke. So.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Nisha put a waiver out, because you used to have to play a certain number, or at least 50% of your schedule, to participate in playoffs, but I think they've put a waiver out for that this year, haven't they?
The goal behind that is to get through this year without student athletes losing the opportunity to play in the postseason. If it strikes during the postseason, those are things we'll have to cross that bridge when we get there based on that's the circumstances that I'm talking about. If that's quarantine circle, I mean, we got to consider quarantine circles, and every scenario is so different. So I don't, I'm with, I see what John's saying. You don't want to put yourself in a corner, because when it comes to postseason time, you're taking away a big opportunity if that group somehow is not part of the quarantine circle. So those are things that we have to think about. But right now, I don't feel we're at a place where we can say we're going to do that. So.
Another important perspective, right now we currently don't let our all virtual students participate. So if we were to move, if the school is shut down, we would also at that point want to look at just our virtual students. So then we'd have to look at, do we currently have students that have been unable to participate in sports, so fair and equitable for everybody. We'd have to keep that in mind as well.
That also includes homeschool students in the future. We're talking about the future of public school. The homeschool students who have nothing to do with our school would also be eligible to play sports if we start opening up those doors.
I don't think that's fair.
That's the Pandora's box that you start opening, though.
No, we're gonna play this one step at a time. I think. I don't think we're gonna open a box with coronavirus here.
Yeah.
I like it. I'll be quiet now.
Okay. Any more discussion on it? I know that Dr. Johnson is within at least daily contact with the Phelps Mary's Health Department. He's
Hourly.
almost hourly, yeah. Okay. Next discussion topic is hybrid learning plan model, like a pod learning situation.
So we felt that this was another topic that we need to at least discuss, is that there is a move across the state with many districts that are developing a hybrid learning plan, which is the kind of half the students come on a Monday, the other half comes on a Tuesday, first half comes back on Wednesday, second half comes back on Thursday, or you can go Monday, Tuesday for A group, Wednesday, Thursday for B group. Fridays, a lot of the schools are using Fridays for a recovery day for the teachers, PD day. That's something that we don't feel is would work right now at St. James for parents, and we really don't want to go down that road. Just another discussion topic. I've asked Mr. Webster to do a little bit of comparisons to other districts, and he's been talking to several schools.
So the last 2 weeks, I've kind of reached out to several local school districts. Some of them have said they do not think would work in their community. Other people are going ahead and kind of putting that in. So once they reach a point where they're shut down, hopefully when they come back, they can start doing this. Within it, everybody's doing it a little bit different. Like he said, some are calling it AA days and BB days. So half your student body's there Monday, Tuesday, the other is on a Wednesday, Thursday. Some are doing it every other days. Obviously, you can look at this in two different perspectives. The more we can get kids in our building, they are going to learn more. So we could make an argument right here that we're going to learn more even if it's 2 days a week versus 0. But we also do have to look at the fact of hardship on our community and inconsistency for the community. So as representatives of the community, we just kind of wanted to hear, do you think this is something we should proceed with or sit on, or how we should move with it?
My 2 cents on that for a hybrid plan. One is, if we're thinking about doing it, we need to have a plan and make sure the community really understands what we're planning, because it is going to be a hardship for mom and dad who are working, trying to get their kids. They need a good plan of what's going to go on well ahead of time. And so even if we never implement it, it may be something we should say it's a possibility, and other districts are looking at it.
It's you never want to plan for something you don't want to do until it's time to do it. And so that's the discussion we've had. We don't feel like this is what we want to do, but there might come a time where it is the right thing to do.
Right.
We hope we don't get there, but I think it would be, and we will just work on a plan just to have when that time should come up. Hopefully it never does. It's like everything we've done with COVID with the reopening plan. I mean, we had, 10 different plans before we finally came up with the final plan. And I think we did a good job vetting it out and trying to do what we thought was best for our parents and our students. And we'll just do the same thing with this. We'll have it as a backup. So that's something we will work on.
I keep thinking like, I mean, let's say you have a household of 3 kids or something, and they're in different grades for different days. I mean, how is that going to work? I mean, how do you break that down to
The consistency that we've seen, we would have to go alphabetic.
alphabetical?
So you still could run into the issue of if 2 children in the same household have the different last name, or multiple children. So there is no perfect scenario to answer your question. And that's one of the reasons, you can make just as good of an argument saying this isn't a good idea for our community. It started a lot of city schools and people that had everybody inside a small area. It was easier for them, but now as reality of COVID keeps setting in and looks like it's not going away, districts are trying to find ways that they can keep the doors open. So,
And the reason, what kind of made us think a little bit more about it is our neighbor, Rolla. They are, I think tonight, they're introducing their blended plan tonight, which will impact, if it happens, our RTI students. So this is something, I don't know if we can run from it in some ways.
It's gonna be a hard thing to do for our community. I don't see that it's really viable for our community. That's why I just said
Have we
it.
rolled out that Friday proposition that you had us approve last week, or last month, where they would go that number of Fridays if we shut down to the community?
Well, yeah, it was, I don't know how well we put it out there, but it was announced.
Okay.
So I mean,
I was just curious.
it's something that we would have time to announce because we haven't shut down yet. So when we do shut down and we miss 4 Fridays, we'll have 4 weeks to communicate that prior to coming back, those Fridays will be full Fridays. I think giving that information now would be fine, but it would be confusing right now.
Well, yeah. I'm just thinking we're throwing a lot of confusing scenarios at people with a lot of what ifs, and I
Yeah,
mean,
that's
and I know we told them it was, subject to change when we rolled out
Right.
the plan, but
That's, just like this plan here, I don't feel like we need to push it out real heavy until we think it might happen. I mean, we can put it on our reopening plan as a addendum. Anyone that's interested, go look, but if we start promoting it,
right.
then it's gonna confuse people because it's not happening yet, so.
So in the half and half, in this hybrid, what about Misha and all that we just discussed?
If you go 2 days a week, and I believe that's right, if you go 2 days, you still play sports.
So
you-
all school sponsored would still,
Gotta have so many hours in a week.
Okay. More discussion? Good? All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Johnson. We will move along to action topics. First action topic we have is to approve the 2020 Rev A and Rev AA and Title IX policy updates from Misha. So I'd like a motion to approve those.
I'll make a motion to approve those.
Got a motion? Got a second? Discussion? One thing to note is that policy BBFA, we're going to have to pass something here to because we have to establish a limit for giving or for acceptance, so step into that in just a second, but other than that, if there's nothing else, those in favor of passing, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, so BBFA was updated, and it also, it states that, and it has to do with ethics. And the previous policy, which we just replaced, had a monetary limit on it. This other one does not, and says we need to somehow establish that monetary limit. So the previous policy had a limit, said that board members will not accept gifts with a value in excess of $100 from a vendor who does or is attempting to do business with a district. If we want to stay with that limit, increase it, decrease it, whatever, we need to go ahead and amend BBFA, the one we just passed, to insert that statement back in with the monetary value. So I'd like a motion to amend the new BBFA policy to state that we will not accept gifts with a value in excess of, your choice.
$2. Too much.
Make the motion with the $100 limit.
I have a motion for, continue with the $100 limit,
I'll second.
and I have a second. Discussion? Okay. Those members in favor of establishing the $100 limit from vendors in policy BBFA, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item, sorry, problem with iPads. A waiver of the 100%. State law said that you're required to spend 1% of your monies on professional development. That's been waived through 2024. It says if the state does not provide 25% of your transportation funding, which they haven't for at least a decade, that requirement can be reduced to 0.5%. And a lot of schools, including us, didn't spend the 1% because we were shut down. So I'd like a motion to accept or implement the waiver and reduce the requirement to 0.5%.
Make that motion.
Got a motion?
Second.
I have a second. Discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Dr. Johnson and our city administrator, Jim Fleming, have been working, and we've ironed out a new school resource officer contract. So that will give us one school resource officer, and I'd like a motion to approve that contract.
I'll make the motion.
Got a
Second.
motion?
John second.
John second. Discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And as Dr. Johnson mentioned earlier, with the new CSIP, we'd like to formally approve the new beliefs, mission, and vision statement.
I'll make the motion.
Have a motion? Have a second? Discussion? Those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.
Where can that be found? Sorry, I should have mentioned that. That can be found on our website, right?
The new mission statement, they will be
Mission,
found on the
mission, and
website,
beliefs.
yes.
It's in the CSIP plan that's earlier on
Now that they're official, we
your
can
deal.
put them out there.
I know that, but I'm talking about for patrons, so that way we don't have to read it here.
We don't have it on the website yet, but we'll get it, yeah. It'll be there tomorrow. Didn't want to jump the gun.
All right. That's it for our open session. We have a couple of items for closed session, so I'd like a motion.
Superintendent.
Did I skip? Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Superintendent's report, I guess
Yeah,
we,
I'm good, but
I always put everybody to sleep anyway, but
Hey, action items are done, we're going.
I'll be quick. There's nothing alarming. As far as the financial statement goes, the big numbers, we have budget shortfalls from the cuts back in July, and then the continued shortfalls. So that is the difference in the reduction of our revenues, and we have we're finishing up on our, as far as our expenditures. We're spending the interest, bond, and indebtedness with our working budget. We spent a lot there. That our budget just this year with reduced revenues, and then our expenses do look like we're spending more money because of the debt service accounts. So I look forward to the day when we're done with the debt service projects and we can go back to a regular budget. So any questions on financial report? Moving on with the Walmart agreement, I will have to compliment the city and Jim Fleming for doing an outstanding job negotiating with Walmart to extend the present agreement for 10 more years. So it looks a little bit different, but we're going to get the same amount of money, which at one point, as we all know, we were thinking that we were going to lose some of that money. So kudos to the city for fighting, and also for benefiting the fire department and the city. So they did a very good job, and Walmart appears to be happy. 10 more years. So that's a great thing. Much compliments when you see Jim Fleming. Thank him, because he's worked very hard on that. And next we have the building level report that Mr. Webster worked on. The principals put it together.
With the building level report, start with the top. APR, this is typically the month that we report on our annual performance report with all of our buildings. This year, we obviously do not have that report due to the shutdown last year, no state testing. Within that, there is nothing to report. I did reach out to our DESI rep to ask him, after speaking to some other superintendents, they reach out to theirs, and he had given them information to discuss. I'm waiting for ours to get back with us, so if I get anything next month, I'll make sure to share that with you guys. With the building reports themselves, do you have any questions on any of the information that's on there?
Okay, thank you. Moving on to the facilities report, Mr. DeLuca.
Wanted to give a quick update on the roof problems we had, a month ago? Not quite a month ago. We only completed phase 1, which was to get us back in session. Phase 2 is going to include the new locker room areas, and that's what Brandco, Eric and I are working at. I'm wanting to get the locker rooms punched out by them, so there's no finger pointing. I don't want to go in there and start working when we haven't really, took ownership of that area yet. So trying to get them to hurry up and let us punch out the locker room so then I can get in there and get our work done, so then we are able to use them. If for some reason we cannot get them punched, we'll just, we will get in there and get it done, and I'll make sure Brandco is aware of what we're doing and how we're doing it, and we'll work through that. Phase 3 will be done, it says at our convenience is what the engineers suggested. So, and that's going to be the different areas around the high school building that they noted that are safe to be in but need fixed at some point. So we will do that at the next open break that it's convenient. It might be next summer, just because it'll be in all these different classrooms, and it'll depend on a few things. And then I do not want to forget about phase 4, because it will help me maintain with, because we have other roof problems as well. There are roof problems, but to address all of them in one by replacing the roof for our leak situation. I don't want to forget about that, but that obviously is the most expensive, and that's something that we really need to keep in our, I don't know, short term. I would like it to be short term, but I understand that it's going to be costly. So that's where we're at. We are using the building. The only area we cannot use right now is the locker rooms, but we can't use it because Branco's not done anyway, so we will not hold up being able to use that. I'll make sure that either we're done before Branco gives it to us, or it will be there very shortly after their punch list is done. So just wanted to give an update on that. Do you have any questions about how that's working, or no? Okay. I did want to boast on my staff. They've really been hanging in there, and I just wanted to, if you guys see them, tell them thank you. They've been working, and they come in on the weekend and to get the high school ready, and I've noticed the stress on their faces lately that I've been pushing onto them because we have to have stuff done. So if you guys could please tell any of them that you see, thank you. They are doing a great job. So really don't have any other updates unless you guys have anything on the project from what Eric said. I mean, I know he was here and answered your questions, but Carl, you did have the question about the storm box out front. So I don't remember what the price was that Dake Wells.
It's like 12,000, I believe, or something
Yeah,
of
it
that
was-
nature.
The fix was going to cost us quite a bit of money to do some sort of foundation wall with like a bench out there. It will be much easier for me just to, I can use that plan later. We'll discuss that after Branco is done and gone. We will, if we're going to have to pay for it now or later, I truly feel, we felt that it will be cheaper later. So that we could easily use someone local for it. Didn't need any extravagant. I don't like that it looks like that right now, but that is how it was designed by the engineer and architects. So there's a few things like that it's like, well, it was designed, it was built this way, and we kind of get into well, that's how it's supposed to be, and well, that don't look right. So we will fix those things, and sorry I don't have a better answer than that, but that is how it is built as designed. So
I have a question.
'Kay.
And I don't know if it's for you or should have been for Branco. I've
Okay.
had a couple patrons, community members ask about how tall the weeds are out in front of the high school and how it kind of looks like a bomb went off out there. Is there any
Yep.
way we can clean up that or have them clean that up? Or?
So I have approached that multiple times because our lovely superintendent, that drives him bonkier than anything, is how, and it really, he asks me probably daily, can we not do something? And I have sent my guys in there to do it. Branco doesn't really like it. They've said, well, if you want us to do it, we'll spray weed killer all over everything and just get, it's a work zone to them, so they don't really want us in their way, but then it's not really part of their contract to do anything about it. It's behind their fence. They feel it's, so,
And I think that they charge us their rates,
yeah.
their
That'll
construction
be-
rates to pick up weeds, and
Yeah.
so I'm like,
On Fridays though, right? I mean,
They're not, and we have a little bit cleaned up, but it's a touchy situation.
we've been fighting.
Right. We
and
have.
it does bother me, and
It bothers us a lot. I mean, it really does. And I don't want to do, just like in the locker room, I don't want to do something that they're going to be, hey, you guys were in there, and this got broke or this got taken, or, I just don't, I don't like finger pointing, so they've asked us to let it be their work zone, so I try to honor that with not being in there for any reason unless they know I'm in there and what we're doing.
Not
And
that
I
it's
know
gonna
that's a
cure the
tough one.
weed issue, but They do have to finish the trenching to get the power over and a new transformer, so they're gonna be working that whole area pretty soon.
Yep,
And they're gonna be putting that retention system out in front of the old school, so
yep.
that's gonna be
And
a,
that's they're like, okay, you're gonna want us to clean up something that we're getting ready to run a backhoe through next week. You know, that what you have to pay us extra to go do that, you know, because it's not part of their contract. So they have a point. I also understand the patrons. I mean, I
never
I
really
don't
paid
have an
attention
answer.
Until they brought it up, and then I looked at it and I was like, oh, it probably is as tall as a small child out there.
It is.
It is.
And so
They're as tall as us.
yes, there's some weeds out there,
Yeah.
for sure.
the good news is the tall weeds hide the big trench that's behind.
Yeah. And if one of my staff members fall in, well, you know, a trench or something, and well, we're not supposed to be in there. They told us not to be in there. Then you get ocean. There's a lot of risk, and I was asked to stay out of there, so I'm trying my best to.
I do drive by other construction sites and other places, and I feel better when I see similar looking construction zones.
Yeah. That's all I got. Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Okay, moving on to PTO report. Not a whole lot to report. A lot of cancellations with many of the things that they do because it requires gatherings. But they are working on the coming up with some cleaning wipes for our teachers, which is very good and appreciative. So we're thankful to them for that. And lastly, the MSBA report. You know, they report a lot of things that I hear on a daily basis, so a lot of redundancy for me, but probably not for you. Just talked a lot about the reopening plans across the state and how every school's different and every school's trying to meet their own individual community needs. And then the main focus is the educational equity, the opportunities that students need and that they deserve, and it's their rights. So the point that they make is equity is not just a matter of opportunity, but it includes the access to that opportunity. And right now, the access to the opportunity includes connectivity and internet and being able to learn equitably with those that are seated. And I could say right now, honestly, we're probably not, and most schools across the state and country are struggling with providing that equity for those students who are learning virtually. We're working hard, and I think we're doing an outstanding job in comparison to many other districts. But we know that there's room for growth. We're going to still work on it here at St. James. There's a major emphasis right now that even during COVID with the shutdown and a lot of students staying home, that we need to continue to be vigilant with reporting cases of child abuse and neglect. If you see that, you must report it. There's online reporting options that allows for easy and quick reports, anything that you see is troubling to the appropriate personnel. And there's all kinds of ways that we can learn how to recognize the signs of child abuse and neglect. And so that's really a major emphasis right now with the COVID isolation. So also, they continue to, next week, starting I believe next Thursday, maybe it's Friday, I think it's Thursday, September 24th, MSBA, the annual virtual conference. And I think some of you are participating in that, in the annual conference, but it's going to be virtual this year. There's some great speakers, and I will be participating as well. I think we're going to be logging in and participating, and I know that Carl and John for sure are going to, possibly Tim, and it's going to be good stuff, so looking forward to that. And that's all for my report.